Okay. It looks like we're live. Doing a little bit of an unplanned stream today. I wasn't expecting to go live. I just sat down this morning and I was looking through Lightroom and found myself moving down a few different rabbit holes. Obviously going through selecting images that I want to edit for like tomorrow's stream, the planned one of just typical photo editing, kind of holding myself accountable this year. I want to be touching photos a lot more frequently than I have been in the past. And I hopped on Instagram at some point and I was just scrolling through and I saw a photo pop up from one of my favorite photographers of all time, Alex Strohl. And if you don't know who Alex Strohl is, he's an incredible photographer, adventure, landscape, outdoor, even action sports. He's done a lot of different stuff. But it sort of sent me down memory lane a little bit because the first time that I ever saw a photo from Alex was back here. So this is from over 10 years ago. And this is the image that got me to start following him on Instagram. And I think ever since then, he's been probably my biggest inspiration when it comes to landscape photography over the years. And so this is Alex's profile. He's got a lot of images. I had to scroll really far down. In fact, I got all the way to the end of his images. It's not too far past this. This is one of the first kind of like big sets of images that I think he did on Instagram. And I remember this image in particular, the way that the oranges and the greens and the yellows interact is just gorgeous. And there's more from this set really close by. Same thing. Just the way that he was doing color at the time really appealed to me, and it still does today. I still come back to this image set while editing to this day to make sure that I'm getting my greens and my yellows and my oranges right. And as you scroll up, you can see him just continue to improve and improve and improve and travel to some pretty incredible places in the world. And honestly, a lot of the travel that I've chosen to do over the years has been almost following in his footsteps. He went to Iceland, he went to Norway, he went to all these Nordic countries. When I went to Iceland, I was checking in on his Iceland photos to see what is possible when I'm here. He's spent a lot of time in Canada. I haven't spent a lot of time in Canada, but Pacific Northwest translates pretty consistently as well. And honestly, he's actually spent quite a bit of time right up where I live as well. So, this is in Washington, this is in Oregon. This is Oregon. This is Cannon Beach. Looks like some of the sea stacks in Washington. This is Crater Lake. This is like an hour from my house right now. And as you continue to scroll through these, or at least as I continue to scroll through these, I see places that I've spent quite a bit of time. So Grand Tetons here. I think this is in Alaska. I've never been, but I've seen enough pictures to know where that is. This looks a lot like where I live currently, so we could definitely emulate something like that. And as we continue up, I believe that's Pacific Northwest. I literally have a photo of that on deck to edit. This is a house up in the Olympic National Forest right by Lake Crescent. This is Ruby Beach on the Washington coast. I think this is the Hoh Rainforest in Washington, and it's, the list goes on and on. So he's spent a lot of time in a lot of places that I've spent time. Yeah, this is December 7th, 2014. This is another one that I saw this and was just freaking blown away by color. Um, so I was scrolling, and I realized just how much he's impacted me over the years. Not just in terms of, wow, that's an incredible photo. Someday I hope to get a picture like that. But even the way he composes images, the way he puts somebody in the frame just right, to give kind of scale to the image, his colors, where he wants to go, the kind of experience he wants to have, subject matter. I mean, he's the guy that got me to start wanting to shoot pictures of horses and things like that, which I haven't spent a lot of time photographing horses, but I do have quite a few pictures of horses just stopped on the roadside. I have them come up to the fence. This was one that I just thought it was unreal, the different angles that he's got going here with the reflection. Looking at his images is really how I learned how to look for the right kind of water to use for reflections. And honestly, he kind of inspired me to spend more time. Oh, excuse me. I just went on a walk and breathing pretty heavy still. It was about 6 miles. But anyway, a lot of his photography you'll see centers around water, and reflections of it, and doing things within it, and just making images more interesting because of the reflection off of water. But you also don't always get that. Like in this image here, you've got these ripples because the water's moving. Even here, there's ripples, and so your reflection isn't going to be perfect. And so there's different ways to sort of find the right kind of water. His Dolomite series, the Alps, these are all just like incredible snapshots. And he's got 3,000 something posts on Instagram, and they just get better and better and better. You can really see him kind of find his style, maybe like just pre-pandemic almost. It's almost like he was really locking in on it. And then, 5-6 years ago is when he kind of landed on final editing style, that sort of stuff. And his variety has also gotten a lot better. So it's not all these like deep landscape shots. As he's done more ad campaigns and things like that, you'll see him mix in a lot more sort of lifestyle or product shots or things like that. They still use a lot of the same elements. But what I wanted to do was take you through some of his work that I think is really cool. And then we're going to sit down and edit some images and see if we can get them kind of close. So that's just his Instagram. His Instagram's incredible. Rolling into personal work. When I found him was when he was publishing stuff from Norway and Iceland, and I think this was 2014. So he was kind of just getting started out professionally. He'd been doing photography for a while, but this was one of his first like big trips, I guess, or collections. So this image, absolutely incredible colors that he's utilizing here. This one specifically is one that I've had this saved on my phone with like easy pull up forever. And this is that yellow, green, orange relationship that I think this is just incredible. I think about this picture several times a week, and I look at this picture several times a week. So that one really spoke to me. This one, obviously, it's a little warmer. It's a slightly different toning that he's using, but same sort of relationship between the yellows, the greens, the oranges, and even like how he desaturates certain things. And this one is another that just blew me away. So what I did before I went live here is I grabbed a whole bunch of my favorites. So these are the Alex Strohl images. that I think are my favorites for a number of reasons. And we can sort of talk about those reasons if we want to. But a lot of these too are ones that are shot either in places that I've been or that ended up being very similar to photos that I shot with. I've never like gone into a place and been like, I have to get this exact photo that Alex took, because when you're dealing with places like this, you're never going to have the same conditions. I have visited, in fact, we'll get into this in a second. I can show you an example here. So I grabbed a bunch of my images that I think would be representative of a similar style. And in some cases, like I'll show you right here, it was kind of uncanny how similar we had some things. Like here, that's the picture that I took in Iceland, and this is the exact same mountain. You can line up the edges on the mountains here if you really want to, but that's the same mountain. We're on the same road. You know, there's images that he's done. Let's find another example. Well, suffice to say, we've got a lot of stuff that he's shot, and then I've ended up in the same place for one reason or another. And so it's been really, I was kind of just nerding out on like, oh, I've been there, I've shot that, I've done something similar. And so we're going to do a little bit of that today. So when you're looking at his photos and what his editing style is, that gets a little bit more difficult because he's got a lot of variety. And I think that you can boil it down to, he doesn't do one thing every single time. This image looks very different than like this image. They're depending on the natural light at hand, his style sort of shifts to accommodate and to accentuate it. And I think that that's a huge, just positive thing to do in general. You don't ever want to get so locked in on an editing style that like you scrap certain photos that you take just because they don't match your aesthetic. Or you don't want to be taking images as an outdoor photographer that like you don't want to be worried about, I guess, being too locked into one style, because when you're outside, you're using natural light. That's always changing. You can see he doesn't really care. There are some other photographers. Let's find another example here. Like, I think Firsty is a good example, right? So, and Firsty's a great photographer, but you can tell that like this dude doesn't click the camera shutter between like 10 a.m. and 3 p.m. He just doesn't. Or like on a sunny day, he's not taking his camera out, right? These are moody, these are gloomy, these are dark, these are very PNW. Whereas someone like Alex, he's got shots at blue hours, shots in the middle of the freaking afternoon. You can tell by the shadows that this is shot at like high noon. And same with this. And then you've got sunset golden hour, you've got misty mornings, you've got, you know, bright sunlight, but it all works. And I think that's because he doesn't try to make something look like something it wasn't. He really is more like, let's lean into whatever the natural conditions were. And it can look a little bit chaotic when you're viewing his work in a situation like this, where you've got, you know, you can see 10 different, potentially 9 different, completely different days, maybe even different years. He had a video 5 years ago or something where he was talking about having 250,000 images. And he does this every single day, year round. He's taking pictures. So that's probably pretty normal. For reference, I have 36,000 images in my Lightroom catalog. And that's pretty close to everything that I've shot since I first got a DSLR. It's not perfectly what I've done. I've probably shot closer to 50, but over the years, trimming things down, not wanting to put weddings in, that sort of a thing, we have slimmed some things down. So I wanted to go through some of my shots and see how closely we can get some things to his photos. I think when you're looking at overall style, like if I had to throw some rules on it, I would say he typically lifts his blacks and his shadows slightly, so he gets a little bit of like a faded film effect. There's not a lot of photos that he edits that come out looking like the crispiest clearly digital image that you've ever seen. I think that he kind of hints at film, even though he's primarily a digital photographer. He does shoot some film, but for the most part, I think that he's sort of riding that line. Like something like this, you've got these really creamy highlights, a little bit blown out in some areas, but you can see in the dark shadows, he's definitely lifted these up. They're not like true black in the shadows, which is something that I did for a long time, a lot more like aggressively than I do now. And I think that part of the reason that I've shifted away from that is because of work. It's a lot less about being an artist and a lot more about, for me at least, doing primarily like architectural stuff for work. You want it to be pretty true to color, so you're not getting as artistic with it. Whereas something like this...
Photography.
Did not mean for that to start going. Didn't realize that was a video. Let's find another example. Like something like this, these shadows are definitely lifted up above true black a little bit. You can just kind of tell. Nothing super crunchy black. They're pretty, even like the Instagram background here is like kind of a warm black, and this pretty much matches up. And a warm black is pretty indicative that you've lifted those shadows a little bit. So slight lift on the shadows. I think a pretty traditional S curve. He is really creative with color, and I think that he does a really good job of sort of honing in on one color as a background or as like a, your anchor color. And it's a lot of times it's blue because he's using mountains, he's using water, the sky. Those are sort of his like backdrop colors. So there's a lot of blue in his imagery, and then he'll focus on a pop of color or a pop of subject light that'll really come in. So you can see here, blue background, red plane, blue background, yellow swimsuit, blue background, yellow light from the motorcycle, blue, yellow, blue diver. Even here, you've got kind of blue and green in the shadows, and then you've got this pop of yellow that's coming out, and that's just a cool picture. That's just really cool. So he'll do sort of one background color, one pop of focus color, and he pretty much leaves it there if he can, because you get this very distinct two-tone thing. He also, he's not afraid to center his subject, which I really like. I've always really gravitated towards that sort of like flat Wes Anderson thing like that. And one thing that I noticed when going through images that he had that I also had was he tends to step back further than I do. And that's my little learning point for the day was, oh, that's right, you can step back. I think I have a picture of this exact thing. I might need to go find that. So we're going to try to emulate this. He does mute a lot of colors in order to get that effect, and then brings up one or two. Oh, that's beautiful. Some of these I've never even seen before. I've been sort of on and off Instagram for the last 5 years, and even prior to that, they were doing the stuff where they don't necessarily show you everything from the people you follow. So some of these are new to me as we're going through them, but a lot of these I've seen before. A lot of these, we're going to use this as an example because it's just funny. There you go. So he desaturated the crap out of that. and turned it white and did all sorts of tricks, and it was probably foggy that morning. You can see from this, but yeah, been there, done that. So we are going to try to emulate some of these, and we're going to see how close we can get, and I think that'll be a fun little way to spend my evening editing, because I have a few hours before I have anything else I need to do, and I wanted to get some of these done. Hi. Sure. No, that'd be great. It smells great. So I'm going to pull up one of these, and we're going to see how close we can get it here. And maybe I'll pull it up on the stream so we can see what we're going for. What was this? Oh, that's so good. That's so good. Alex is so good. Why does it have to be so good? Now I'm having a hard time picking one. And I think I want to use one that's a little newer, because we don't want to be emulating something that's really old from him. Could do that. I've got almost that exact photo already saved here. So, yeah. Let's do this one. And yeah, I'm going to need to sticky this somehow. I know how to do it. I just need to take a second. And let's add an image. Let's add an image. Let's go browse. We're going to go desktop, Alex, and we can bring this photo up that we're trying to emulate here. So that's sort of what we're going for. It doesn't need to be quite that big, but that's what we're going for. And I think that I picked one that felt a lot like it. What do you know? I think I had another one too that was out the window. That one. Let's see. Is that one a better feeling? It is vertical, which is nice. I liked this one because the light behind it and the rain, but it's a little more about the mountain, I think. So let's do this one, and we're going to play with it. So when I'm looking at the photo from Alex, obviously it's a little brighter than what we've got here. First things first, we're going to go down into the profile corrections. We can remove some chromatic aberration and give it some sharpening. It looks like he sharpens a decent amount. I don't think we're going to ruin anything by doing that. We can add some clarity in, know your lens, know your number kind of a thing. We were moving, he was not. Wish we weren't moving, but when you're trying to see Iceland in 4 days, you kind of got to hustle. Oh my gosh, thank you. Cheers. I got dinner. So right away, we want to bring up our exposure a little bit. Let's do this on a medium gray so that it feels a little better. Bring up exposure, but maybe not that much. Maybe more like a half a stop. We're going to add some contrast in. We are going to temp it down. It looks like pretty significantly. Maybe like here. And I think it's going to be a little bit more green than we have it right now. So White balance wise, probably about here. Obviously, haven't touched saturation or individual colors yet, but we're going to get to those. Highlights need to come down so that we get a little bit more detail in those clouds, but we don't want them to be completely off because that's our highlight of the image. It is a pretty dark picture that he's done here. Shadows are going to come up a little bit. Whites might even come up a little bit so that we get that differentiation in the cloud as well. And then blacks can get lifted slightly too. We don't want to bring them up too much, but enough that we get sort of that faded black look. And we're going to do a little bit more of that in the curves in a minute. Dehaze, we don't actually want to add too much here. And I think part of this is the timing. The dehaze slider wasn't present in Lightroom yet. So back in the day, we had to do this manually. But also it's sort of got this like dreamy, ethereal film quality to it, which honestly, you're not going to touch the dehaze that heavily for that anyway. You kind of want to leave it alone. Or even, you could even go down. And yeah, it may be slightly down, like -2, nothing crazy, but just enough to get a little bit more of that sort of blending of tones, whereas dehaze is going to really separate things out. Vibrance wise, I don't see him having a ton of vibrance in this. I think that it might even be muted a little bit. Same with saturation. Where you're going to get a lot of your color is from the individual colors. So we're going to go minus on those for now. And contrast, we may even want to build a little bit more in here. Just looking at his picture, looking at mine, and trying to see where we have similarities and differences. So curves are really going to be a game changer here. And I think he does a very light lift, but then he's going to bring his shadows more down to give it more of that mood. And then he's going to lift his blacks. And that's going to get us a little closer to what he's doing here. It might not be as aggressive of a downshift on the shadows to get there. But you can see in his image, like, yeah, he's got these deep shadows. I need to bring this up close so I can see and compare. Yeah, and then it's okay. So it's a lot of tone within the actual shadows. So in hue, we're going to bring our blues more towards aqua, probably about a -10. It's like right on the cusp of being a dramatic shift. Our greens, I think we want to make more green. But we're also going to desaturate those pretty heavily. Probably like a -40-ish, maybe even more, 45. Yellows, if I were doing it for me, I would probably be pushing them more orange for that really distinct difference between yellow and green, and orange as well. And even oranges we can play with a little bit, but there aren't that many in this image. So I think this is pretty close on what we would want to be doing for hue. Maybe his greens are pushed more yellow. No, I think we were right. I think it's something right around here. Purples I'm not seeing a ton of. But then we want to get into saturation on blue. And I think he's bumping saturation on blue a little bit, just to really hone in on that moodiness. He's also adding blue into the shadows or aqua into the shadows, which we'll get to in a moment. And then things like yellow, he's dropping saturation slightly on. Normally the top of this mountain here would read more yellow, and I think what he's done is add luminance in, but minus saturation, and hue probably more towards green, to be honest. But we're editing like Alex Strohl, not necessarily exactly, right? So our orange saturation can probably come down. Yellow can come down even a little further. Aqua, we don't want to go overboard with this. It actually looks like he might mute Aqua a little bit and let the blue really speak for itself, and we may even want to tone this further. He might even do more like a 12 or 14 here. And then not quite as much saturation, like an 8. And then luminance. So his yellow luminance he's going to bring out, and that really accentuates the difference there. I believe he brings greens up as well, but maybe not as heavily. Orange isn't going to be super impactful. We're going to leave that alone. Aqua really only in this grass out here, so we can kind of leave that one. I might bump it a little bit just because we are going to do blue as well. And sometimes he brings blues down. I think in this instance he's going to be bringing blue up slightly. My monitors aren't completely calibrated, so we're trying to do the best with what we've got here. Yeah, and then I think we're going to be adding blue into our shadows. So yeah, this is where the magic is going to happen. So he was an early adopter of color grading, and for that I thank him, because it's meant that I've had to get better at this as well. And I think we're looking at something in here, maybe not quite that heavily saturated, but like something like a 15. Let's see how that looks compared. I don't think his blues went this far aqua, but we're starting to get that blue in the shadows that we're looking for. And it may even be more bordering towards purple. Something like down in here. We're going to bring blue back slightly. And we're starting to get pretty close. I think he might actually do an even more aggressive shadow curve here. So, like really lifting shadows. Not quite to the point of like blowing it out that way, but like, let's see what's his definition looking like. Something like this. It's looking pretty close. I think at this point it's just lux in our shadows coming up. Yup. Yup. Pretty dang close, but it's a little more aqua. Probably about there. I think his highlights, it's hard because the clouds are similar but not the same. But we're starting to get there. This is very similar to what he is working with. Okay. Honestly, I'm pretty happy with this. I might have gone a little too ham on something. No, you know what? Honestly, that looks pretty dang close. That is very similar. Yeah, that's looking good. Okay. So let's pick a new image here. We're going to say this one's done. We're going to set that rating to 3. Let's pick a new one of our images, and then we can pick one of his to sort of stylistically choose. Montana is another place that he has spent a lot of time. And that may be the route that we want to go here. So if we're looking at, can scroll up a little ways. I know that he spent a lot of time in Glacier National Park, which I also have done a trip to, and we have some similar angles that we can play with. So Alex is just exceptional when it comes to this winter coloring and lighting. And I would like to spend a lot more time working on images that I have that are in that similar color space. His work in the North Cascades is so beautiful. That's a place I've always wanted to go and just haven't really spent the time. From what I understand, it's pretty remote as well, so it would really need to be a dedicated trip, and it's just not close to anything else or on the way to anything else, so I haven't had the opportunity to do it. Come on, this looks like Alaska, or that might be Alps. That's definitely Norway. Let's find something from Glacier. I can just get lost in these pictures. Honestly, like, how do you pick just one? What's up, Jude? How you doing? Don't know how we're going to pick just one here. Come on. He's just got so much work. This looks like Glacier. Yeah, this is Montana. But that's not the image that I'm thinking of. I've got one in my head that I really want to go for because it's a challenging edit as well. It's a certain type of light at a certain lake. And I've got a very similar image, and I've never been able to get it just right. Hey, look. There's a picture we just edited. It looks a little different on Instagram than it did from his website, though. There we go. But that's very different lighting than what I had. I was there in the very middle of the day, so that isn't quite the same. I wish I had gone at sunset. Holy crap, that looks so cool. And that's what I'm talking about. It's like you can go to all these same places, but the lighting is going to be completely different. If you're not there on the same day at the same time, you're going to end up with pretty different looking images unless you just hit the weather lottery, which as an Oregonian never happens to me. I am always looking for a specific shot, and it always is a little different than what I have in my head because the weather is never quite what I'm envisioning. Even sometimes I'm like, I need it to be pouring down rain for what I want, and it just doesn't do that. So let's see here. That's a good picture, but it's not quite the one I'm looking. So this is the spot. I think this is the same lake that I'm talking about here. See, so here's that same place, but I was there in the very middle of the day, so the lighting is completely different, a lot worse in my opinion, unfortunately. But yeah, here we go. Pretty sure this is the exact same. Right? I think so. He's just further to the left. So he was that direction. But you can see the lighting on this is really challenging. And part of that is because I was learning the new camera, and he's the reason that I bought a 5D. I thought that I saw an image when I was looking through his stuff that was that same spot, but with more similar lighting to what is in my photo. And I wonder if I can find that picture, because that's one that I've come back to that that series of photos so many times, and it was wildfire season, so there was a fire in the park that was making everything foggy. That was like middle of August or July or something. I think the date is in August, middle of August in 2015, 9.5 years ago. And here we go. There's the same. No, that's a fjord. Never mind. I'm crazy. Oh, this section is so good. When he got more like flat. Obviously, I like all of his work regardless, but there are some kind of distinctive phases, at least that his Instagram page has gone through. Like this is a very flat image, color-wise, and I just like watching the different iterations of Alex that we've gotten over the years. How's the new mic stand? I feel like I'm much louder this close to the microphone. So if I'm too loud, Jude, please let me know, and I will make some adjustments. But got this handy dandy mic arm, which is so nice because I think I was starting to become a bit of a hunchback with it on my desk, a little too low. There's Oregon. Let's see. I thought it was further down. Maybe I missed it. If we can't find that one, we'll find a different one. That's just one that sticks in my head. I know it exists. I just don't know where it is. And I don't think it's on his website. So. Oh, that is so good. See, that just pops. That just pops so well. He's so fucking good at photography. It's insane. Now, I thought about doing this with a bunch of different streamers. Oh, that looks like Glacier. If not, it's very similar geology. Somewhere in the Rockies. I've thought about doing this with a few different photographers, kind of picking some of my favorite images that they've done that have inspired ones that I've taken or that are similar to ones that I've taken, and then trying to do edits that are representative of that. Here's another kind of color block section where he got closer to the subjects than he typically does, and it really created these like palettes of color per image. Versus something like this that's a little bit busier, right? Where is this picture that I'm thinking of, though? Anyway, I was thinking about doing this with a few other photographers. I have some ideas in mind for guys that sort of have a distinctive style or that I've just been interested in their work for a long time because it's something that I've wanted to emulate or, you know, aspire to do one day. And Alex's career is a pretty... Oh, that is so fucking good. Alex's career, if I could just steal anybody's career, I think it would be his. Like, he works with Canon, he works with Adobe for he's an ambassador for Lightroom. You know, he works with Land Rover, Solomon, all of these different outdoor companies that would just be a dream to get sent around the planet doing this kind of stuff. And fortunately, I've got 9 to 5 and I can support kind of the travel that I want to do. And it's even created new travel opportunities for me, which has been really great. But to kind of get free reign to just plan and go out and do these sort of things, freewheel it a little bit more, I am so jealous and would love to get to work like this. I swear I've been sleeping plenty. I don't know why I'm yawning. Sorry, y'all. Well, okay, we just scrolled through all of his work and we didn't find it. So we're going to take principles from his work and we're going to use that as our situation here. Let's take... You know what? Let's take this image that really was kind of the initial one that introduced me to his stuff. And we'll throw that in there. Let me just check and see that this is looking okay. Is that not visible? Sorry, guys. Technical difficulties happening all over the place. I still haven't freaking figured out exactly how I want to do all this. This image should be showing on your screen. If it's not, that's on me. I mean, I'll be clicking it over onto my screen occasionally to show it anyway. But if it doesn't show up, then that's on me, and I apologize. So we're looking for something sort of shot in the woods, a little bit shadier. We want a subject centered. We really want to be able to highlight those oranges, yellows, greens, that sort of a thing. Oh, no, it is showing on your screen. Okay. I'm not crazy. Okay. So if we are emulating that image, then what we need to do, I need to open it so that I have it up as well. We need to find something that fits color-wise and composition-wise. And I might not have even selected something that would really work for this. This is a very piney forest. This is in Norway. Similar latitude to what we're at, but a little bit more north. But you're going to have a lot more vegetation and stuff than you would in places like Iceland. So when I'm looking through these photos, I'm not necessarily seeing anything that matches up with this properly in terms of sort of composition and color. Maybe something like this could work here. But again, I'd want to do something similar with a subject. So let's take a look at, that's what I've got set out for Sunday. Maybe we could steal one of these. This would work if I had somebody in it. This actually isn't bad, but we've got sort of the backlight. And maybe what we need to do, here we go. We're going to select a different image, because this is actually remarkably similar to this guy, which is another one of my favorites. So I'm going to bring that up on my screen so that I have my comparison ready. All right. So this is really the one. The other one with his wife in the woods, that's the one that hooked me onto his work initially. This is the image that I personally come back to so frequently, and we've actually got pretty good composition here to emulate this. Once again, this is Norway, so some of the colors in the foliage are going to be slightly different. It's a little warmer down here in Oregon where this was shot, but I think that we can get pretty close, and that's what we're going to try to do. So right off the bat, first things first, enable those, get rid of some chromatic aberration. We're going to bring some sharpening back into it. And I think this might have been shot on my T3i. Yeah, this was my T3i before I got the 5D. Just goes to show it's not the gear that matters. It's the person behind the lens. So here we want to get this nice and vertical, at least our subject, and we're going to skew the edges later so we can handle that in a minute. His subject is up higher in the image than mine. I still want to keep this tree branch, maybe this tree in the top, but we can sort of crop after that. And then we want to center our subject, and that's going to give us a nice base composition. His subject isn't quite centered, but close enough. In his other stuff, it would be. And then we can start playing with things like exposure. So I think we're going to sit somewhere like here, maybe a little darker, preserve some of those shadows. Got a lot of blown out white, but that's okay. You can see on his image as well, there's quite a bit of blown out white, and we'll be able to fix a little bit of that. So we want to bring some contrast back into the image. This is a 12-year-old image set by him, by the way. So there's some things that he's doing in here that I don't think he would do to this day. But this is the one that really spoke to me back then, so I'm liking that we're going to play with it now. This is my friend Sean. Shadows, we could go darker with them, but I think what he's done here is it's either you go down with shadows and then up with blacks, or you go down with blacks and up with shadows. And when I'm looking at this, I think it's the latter. I think it's up with shadows so that you get a little bit more detail in the patch of grass to the right of the guy, but you also don't lose some of this like deep dark black down in the corners. And he's probably also added a vignette, very slight, in order to have that happen. So shadows don't need to come up a lot, but it would be nice kind of in that 18, 19 range. Where we're really going to be focusing is on these patches of highlights where the sun comes through and hits the grass. In his image, you can see that that kind of makes the photo. And so that's the idea that we're going to emulate here. I think that his is toned a little bit cooler, and I don't hate doing that here either. It doesn't need to be a lot cooler, but maybe not summer versus looks like a fall shot in his. Maybe winter with that tree being dead in the foreground. Whites we're going to bring down so that we're not completely blown out in all of these highlights coming through the trees. It doesn't have to be down to 100, but probably right about there. Oh my gosh, my nose is so itchy. Holy cow. I also need to eat a little bit. Okay. Clarity we're going to add back in. Dehaze. Actually, dehaze in this image might be kind of helpful. Just a little bit. If I'm bringing this over, I think we want to go a little more green. Mine has a lot of like this purpley tone to it. I think we want to be more green. Yeah, that's giving us closer image. Make that bigger so when I bring it over it looks better. Okay, curves. We're going to do a slightly high S curve. I'm going to bring these shadows down a little bit, but not too far. And we're going to bring our blacks up. And that's just going to sort of give it that dreamy, creamy shadows look. We may even bring some of our midtones up a little bit more. This is how he gets that very vibrant under brush that's going on here. And this may be... I'm looking at how the... Oh, I feel like my eyes are struggling just because of the purple that's coming through on the edges of the trees anytime I adjust this. We can cap this down as well, and that's going to help us from going overboard. How much glow do we want coming through? Here we go. That's looking pretty good. Okay. Now things are getting serious. Want to bring this over and see how close we're getting on some stuff. And maybe blacks aren't quite so lifted on his. May want to bring this back down just slightly. And bring shadows down to kind of compensate as well. And that's looking pretty good. So we're going to get into hue. Green. might need even, no, it needs to be like very green. But we're going to bring saturation on it slightly down. And it's not going to match up perfectly 1-to-1 with what he's got going in his. But we are going to get kind of close. And maybe it's because we went a little too... No. Like there. Yeah, we can't push green too far. Although I wonder if he would have pushed green this far today. Maybe he did bring saturation up a little bit. I think that's getting pretty close if we were to be like right here. Yellow's where things get important. We want yellow to push slightly, just ever so slightly towards orange, but not too much. We are going to make that less saturated, but not too less saturated. Luminance. I always thought it was luminance up, but now that I'm looking at it, it almost feels like he went down with it to make it appear more like true yellow. It must be up, though. I wonder what orange... Orange could be very desaturated, and then we go yellow. Okay, I gotta like put these next to each other again. How are we gonna get exactly those tones? My yellows are too green. Yellows are too green. Are they not saturated enough? No, they're oversaturated now. Getting closer, but still a little too purple. So maybe it's more like here. This is such I've done this where I've challenged myself to edit like somebody before, but I've never done this like back and forth editing like this. So this is fun. Blue, I wonder if we get rid of blue. Although he's got blue in like the corners. So we don't want to completely get rid of it. We just kind of want to mute it slightly. And maybe that's coming more from Vignette than it is from actual blue. So let's get blue down. Aqua could be what we're really seeing in the foliage here. And then if we mute green, maybe that's the key. Maybe he's bringing green in with more aqua. And then we would need to push aqua. Because it's not truly blue, but it's definitely like more blue than traditional green would be. I really do think yellow's blown out. And another thing, I mean, this is obviously a slight difference in camera quality as well. So I didn't completely nail focus perfectly. This is a much smaller overall image file than what I deal with the 5D. So quality is going to be a slight detractor there. But I think when we're looking at these two images compositionally side by side, that's the least of our worries. Saturation on red, I kind of want to drop this because it's not just Sean's shirt, it's also this line on the tree, and that's bugging me. So we could drop that, and I wonder if it's purple that it's reading. I'm going to get rid of purple and magenta anyway. I wonder if it's... I guess it is just his shirt. We can turn that like orange. And that'll help blend any other instances of red that are peeking through, and it'll also give him some color in his shirt, but not too much. Orange. I think that he moved orange to be a little bit more yellow. To kind of meet in the middle. And maybe we don't really want all of our orange to be out of the shot. like when I'm looking at these, the yellow isn't quite showing through enough. That's what I'm most concerned about right now. And even orange, we could bring down the luminance on. It's funny, it's one of these things, like this image is always in the back of my head, and I know when I get there, right? But like getting there always takes some pretty major tweaking. So it's a learning curve every single time. So green luminance is definitely way up. We know that for sure because of the way that the image shadows look. Aqua luminance might also be up, but not as heavily. Blue might be down, and that might be how he's getting the effect in the trees. But that's also probably my least favorite part of his picture. So I might want to do this and make it look like the trees are a little bit more spread out. I like that effect. And you don't have to get all of this perfect because we do, once again, still have color grading for our shadows to do. He's got warmer shadows in this than what we're dealing with here. And his sky is also a little bit more pink. And his greens are a lot more green. And his yellows are more desaturated. Maybe it's more like highlights need to, or whites need to come back up because that might be unbalancing some things. A little bit more warmth to the image. Back up to like 68. That might help. I think that helps. His yellow highlights just have this like white glow to them that I really love. And I'm not quite sure how to get it. I mean, I know how in theory to get it, but when I'm playing with the image down, and maybe this is just I haven't edited a lot of my T3i photos in a long time. Could just be that. Oh well. Or maybe it's that my greens aren't as punchy as they could be. We're getting closer. I want my greens to be a little warmer. Just barely, though. It's like they need to be warmer and colder and more vibrant all at the same time. And this is why I'm obsessed with this photo, because I could pretty much just look at these greens all day and be pretty happy about it. The way that he did it's just carried over into so much of my work over the years that I can't stop obsessing about it. And maybe it's tone curve. Okay. Anyway. Can't spend too much time on it. So he's warmed his shadows up a little bit. Probably with a bit of like a yellow green would be my guess. If I had to guess. Although that's actually getting pretty dang close. Look at that. It's a little less orange, a little more yellow, I think, in the shadows here. Closer to that. And saturation, not so much. My eyes are starting to do the cross-eyed thing. Ooh, we're getting pretty close. We are getting pretty close. Midtones. I think there might have been a tiny little bit of pink maybe blue. Maybe somewhere like here. Maybe this is how he's getting his greens to be as green as they are. Once again, I don't want to be too close to that because that's actually, I think that he may have overdone it looking back. But that's not really for me to say. I'm going to be honest. I like how this is looking with a little more orange to the highlights. Ooh, either that or we go bluer. No, I think the orange look in the highlights because it's true summer, right? We're looking at height of summer. Just a slight, just a twinge. And highlights might have just a touch of magenta to them, but I fucking hate magenta. Yeah. Ooh, we've fucked up Sean with our complete desaturation of red there. I don't know why his face is looking so funny, but we can leave that alone. Maybe it was from this. I really don't know what's going on with his face there. Sorry, Sean. I wonder if we were to go brighter, or do we go darker? Or do we leave it alone? I think we kind of leave it alone, maybe a little brighter. Blending on these, it's going to be slightly warmer of an image if we go further left, further right. I like it right around there. Sharpening's good. And then I think we can denoise. I don't think anybody's watching, which means that I can eat some food. Love that. Okay. I'm going to do a couple of quick little I want to fix these. So we're going to do this. I would love it if this didn't have such a fat fucking border. Yeah, see, that doesn't look that good. I think this just has to happen in Photoshop. I mean, nobody else would ever notice that, but I think that's a Photoshop change. And we could play with this to no end. Like, I would want to take out this tree branch here. It'd be a really challenging edit with all of this stuff going on in front of these trees, but I wouldn't hate taking that branch out. I think I am going to at least clean up some of the stuff that's bugging me really quickly. Hey, no, not for you. Oh, you know what we need to do first thing? We need to skew it. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to bring some rulers out. Some vertical rulers, because this is what we want our trees to all align to. So I'm just sort of putting these where some of the more prominent trees are. And then what I'm going to do is jump into edit, transform, and then skew. And we're just going to start pulling these out until they look vertical. And we don't want to go too far. We also don't want to make Sean look too short. So it's going to be a little of this, little of that sort of a situation. Like this tree starts out pretty wide, which means we can go pretty wide. You can see this one's getting all sorts of bent out of shape though. So while we want to keep Sean vertical, and we probably need to draw him a vertical line, we also don't want these to get horribly skewed. That might be just a little too aggressive for me. This is another one of those elements that you could just spend hours and hours and hours and hours changing and tweaking, and I just am not sure I have the patience for that. Okay, when I look at this in Lightroom, this does kind of bend out, so I'm kind of trying to fix something that already wasn't perfect. How tall does Sean look? Much taller than I've made him look. So we want this to come up. We want this to come up because we don't want to lose our foreground. That's another thing that I forgot to mention when we were kind of analyzing what makes Alex's work special is his attention to foreground and just how important like interesting foreground elements are in his work. So I want to preserve my interesting foreground. I want to keep Sean pretty well centered here. And I think we're doing a pretty good job of that. I want to keep more of these trees in if I can. Without going too crazy in one direction or another. So he doesn't look too much shorter. Still don't want to make that look unrealistic. So we're losing some of our trees here, but it's giving us more of like a straight on perspective. We're getting less of the tilt in the trees, which I think makes them look better. And I think right around here, I could tweak this endlessly. I don't want to do that, so we are going to let that be more of a final product here. Oh shit, no, I don't want to do that. Duplicate, not delete. And this is going to be our removals layer. And in here, I'm going to go nutty with the clone stamp. Let's make this like a 25-ish. And all I want to do is grab. So what I'll do is I'll grab part of the tree edge so that I can line that up with the rest of the tree. And then all I'm going to do is just paint out this line here. And then I will find some areas of similar stuff and sort of blend that, the rest of that line that's there. I'm going to just steal little parts of the tree. And that way we get rid of any sort of like duplicate dark patterns and things like that as well. So we want the colors in the tree to remain consistent, but we want to blend out the fact that we have used elements of this photo now in multiple places. That's one thing that can get really challenging with landscape photography, is if you are doing stuff like clone stamping. You wouldn't think so, but like using the same bush in two spots can just give this sort of like uncanny valley effect, which we are trying to avoid. So luckily that's a pretty easy spot to blend some stuff in and not make it too obvious that we're doing that, but we always want to be careful. And with Sean, what a great shirt. Soup du jour. Sean looks good. I don't think that we need to mess with him too much. Maybe we fix his little curly cue that's going on here, just barely. And for that, I'm going to go down on the brush. So, like, we could fix his little hair situation there, and we may even give him a bit of a haircut. Just a slight one. I think he'll be happier. I think we'll be happier. It all just comes together if everybody collaborates. Yeah, I'm a bit of a barber. Here's another line on tree. This one's not very tricky. We're just going to steal part of the trunk there. We're going to line it up, and we're going to paint this sucker out because we don't want red in this. Yeah, I wish that my foreground was in more focus. That would be really nice. But all in all, I think we're pretty happy with this. So we removed some things. We fixed Sean's hair a little bit. If we get rid of the skewed, so you can see the difference between the unskewed and the skewed image. We moved him pretty far left. Maybe we want to... That's a pretty major change. And I wish this stump wasn't there. We just make it look a lot more. You know what? We are working in Photoshop. I think it's okay, because this tree isn't necessary to be in the image, and so we can still keep him centered. I wonder... It'd be pretty challenging to get this stump out right now. I think I'm going to leave it as is, and we'll recrop, and then we'll do some masking and some vignette and see how that all works out. Maybe I don't really mind the unskewed. I still want to get rid of these lines. Let's try this just in Lightroom really quick and see how it looks. Oh, that looks so bad. Lightroom, why are you so bad? there. Oh, why did I do that? Undo that, undo that. Wait a minute. Oh my god. Okay, you. Up a little bit. Lightroom uses so many more resources to get this done than Photoshop does. That's my timer to go feed my dogs. I should probably do that. Okay. Yeah, sure. Just, I don't know how to make it get off my screen. No. See, I know that that's... I just know that it's there, and that's a problem. So we're gonna throw this back into Photoshop, and we're gonna not worry about skewing it and all that shit. We're just gonna go straight into removals. Gonna go somewhere like here, steal that edge, and then we're gonna paint this in, and it's gonna look great because Photoshop is good at its job, and Lightroom needs to stick to its lane. So there we go, we got rid of that line. There's one down here below it. Steal that edge of the tree and stamp this out. That's nice. I also want to get rid of this chromatic aberration that Lightroom couldn't find. Can do that to make some of these lines more distinct when we need them. There's another line. So let's line up that trunk and then let's paint this out. Nice. There's another line or just thing that we don't want. These little pops of red need to go. They need to go. We could change the color of Sean's shirt if we wanted to, but I'm not sure that I want to go that far. You can do some cleanup in natural shots. You know, if a stick's in the way, if it's really bothering you, stuff like that. But I think that when you get into like changing the color of clothing and things like that, you can risk screwing up other parts of the image that otherwise look totally great. So we just want to be a little bit careful about that. And then, you know what? I think it looks good. I don't think I need to worry about skewing it too much. Because we are looking up at Sean, so it is naturally going to do a little bit of that closing in on him. I think that's where we want to be. I think we're going to save that. Yeah, that's our shot. And when we pull Alex's photo back in, I think that we did a pretty good job of emulating the greens and the yellows and the oranges that I was talking about. Sweet. Let's see what else we got here. Oops, double opened it. Oh, that's so good. That's just a beautiful photo. So many of these are just beautiful photos. Maybe I should be looking at it a little differently. Maybe I should be looking at what I'm... Close that stack. What I want to edit and then put that into his style. So here we could do something similar to his barns. Obviously we've got some crazy light. I pulled some horses. Oh, this isn't even the right folder. I gotta move this into finished. Horses in Colorado. The light's a little dumb on that one. Let's look at our Alex. So I set aside, like I said, I have 36,000 images in my library. I set aside these 107 earlier today because I thought that they were pretty good matchups for what we would be doing today. These are ones that when I look at them, I think, how would Alex edit these? And this is what we've ended up with. So thinking about his Iceland set, this was one that I was really excited about doing because it's so dark and moody. And when you bring this up, you can see it's just really cool sunlight coming through. But I wanted to make that like really aggressive. And I think that if we were to bring up his website, there's a photo from one of his Iceland. It might have been the other Iceland set. I think it might have been Icelandic Living, where he's got this shot. Maybe not. I wonder what. I can see it in my mind's eye, the shot that I'm thinking of here. Once again, I've just spent too much time on his. You know what? It might have been Andrew Kearns. And I don't think he even really posts anymore, unfortunately. See if I can eat while I look through some of his stuff here. So when was this? 4 years ago. Okay. Ooh, without the beard. Oh, snap. He doesn't even have any of his work past that. Andrew. He had so much stuff. Maybe in his tagged. Ugh, Andrew was one of my favorites years ago. He did so many good. His vlogs were awesome. And honestly, he's kind of this like beautiful blend between Alex and Sam Elkins in terms of like portraiture versus landscape and stuff. I absolutely abhor doing portraiture. I like editing portraits. I hate shooting portraits. I just don't care enough about like the models and shit to get better at directing. I wonder if his website is still up, and that may be where we find the image I'm thinking of. Collections. Travel. Yeah, very similar stylistically. That's a beautiful shot of the Northern Lights. Well done. That's a cool composition. I wonder who it was that shot this image that I'm thinking of. No, it was very much like, maybe it was in his advertising. Oops, didn't mean to do that. Open link in new tab. Here we go. It might have been this set. I remember this set. I remember seeing this and thinking, holy crap, I need to go there. It's not that set. Okay. This is in Iceland for sure. Yeah, okay. That's Iceland. But this looks more like on assignment style than like what I'm looking for. Huh. Maybe I'm just tripping. Maybe I really don't know what I'm talking about. Regardless, he has a very cool, very dramatic image like that. Ooh, you know what I want to do? I want to do this and then sync these up. And let's do check all and then sync. I want to see how that turned out. Ooh, that's a little bright compared to what I was looking for. Even that might be a little too bright. Shadows up, but then blacks down. That's cool. Very Alex. But I kind of like that. A little bit warmer. Once my thumbnail updates, that'll be nice. Okay. Where do we want to go? Another thing that I've noticed... Oh, let's get rid of this image here. Yep. One thing that I've noticed as well in Alex's work that I think is really good is he does these like windows into the scene really well, where he'll use some natural framing and even unnatural framing to sort of give you this window into the subject. And the one that I was just on was a good example of that. Like here with the arch. Obviously that's not a photo, but he does this a lot where he's got these foreground elements. Like I said, you got to focus on the foreground, make sure that it's an interesting angle that you're taking, but he'll use it to his advantage to sort of tunnel in on what he wants you to be looking at. And that's something that I have tried to shoot more like that recently. Oh, so here's that same beach where we saw some images from him earlier. Obviously, we've been to a lot of the same places in Iceland. So I was going to re-edit a lot of these, or edit some of them for the first time. Like I've got some of these horses on the roadside, walking around the cars and stuff. We had stopped in the middle of the road because everybody stopped in the middle of the road because of those horses. So there's a lot of these that I do want to come back and revisit for the very first time since I shot them. And he's got a lot more of sort of a documentary feel to some of his stuff where it's like he doesn't care about the perfect angle. It's more, you know, hanging out the side of the car. You've got some of the car in the image. You've got somebody else in the road, but it feels like, and you can see the speed lines from going on this. This is the going to the Sun Road in Glacier National Park. And so there's some elements of motion, some action, and you can feel like how much of a drop off a cliff this is right here. But so you kind of want to have those elements of imperfection, like you were catching this on the fly, you just happened to get the right kind of picture, and that's always something that I'm striving to be better at, because it's very easy to sort of fall into the trap of like, if it's not perfect, then don't click the shutter button. And I think that that is a mistake and something that I need to be personally a little bit better about as well. I want to bring green down on this a little bit. It's a little too green for my liking. And I also don't want any fucking purple or magenta in this shot. I'm sick of it. Get it out. Get it off my screen. Yellow's nice. Yellow's bringing some cool color in. We're going to bring that up a little bit. I just hate when my highlights start turning fucking pink. It's gross. Okay. I don't really have an example image now to work with. Not that I need one. I think that we can roll with what we've learned here. We could do one of these like windows into the subject. Could also do, where's another good example of that? Window into the subject. Window into the subject. Or we could try to edit one of these moodier ones to feel a little bit more like his work. And I kind of like that idea. I'm just looking for an image that I've wanted to edit for a while. I know there's I mean, all of these kind of qualify, but I want to do one that really feels specifically like that. I haven't touched this one in a long time. I like this one a lot. So let's keep that sort of editorial idea in mind. We want it to look clean and natural, but we also want to give it a little pop. Let's see, if we were going to bring this into a 4x5, it's going to sit more like this. Maybe more like this. Let's see how it looks here. That's actually pretty good. I think we need to get it like there. I think we want him slightly to the right since he's looking down. And we may want to bring this up just barely so that that is right on the midline here. And we may have gone just a scotch too far there. It's still not perfect, but also the horizon isn't perfect, so that's okay. So there's our image at 4x5. If I were to unlock this, then we can go out quite a bit more. But if we want to keep him kind of in that spot, maybe we go like here. That's a pretty good shot. That's a pretty cool composition there. Let me revisit the, oh yeah, we need to just do lens, because we're getting some bend. So now when we come to crop, we're actually going to, I think that's about right. I don't want to have the pole in it, so we're going to go out until we get there. Can do this, but to the point where the kid's centered. And that's a nice composition. Then we can crop in for a vertical version for something like social media. And for our website, we can keep the nice wide landscape orientation. All right, Alex, I'm coming for you. So first thing I see is highlights need to come down. Maybe it's whites and then highlights up. No, it's highlights down, whites stay more mid. But we want those down because we want this sky to really pop here. Contrast we're going to build in, but we're not going to go too crazy. Saturate. Oh, there we go. Ah. We lost it again. Come back, camera. Okay. So exposure, we can go down half a step. Then we can build some of our highlights and whites back in, which is nice. In fact, that's going to give it a really nice glow over that or that right side of the mountain. But we can make the sky not quite as poppy. Shadows. So we could keep it really dark and moody, or we can make these quite a bit brighter, which I think is what Alex would do here. I think he would go a little bit higher with the shadows, but then maybe bring blacks down. And we don't need to worry about blacks being too black because we are going to lift those slightly in the curves. Let's get our clarity up. How are we doing on noise? Noise is pretty good. Dehaze. Oh, it would be very easy to go too ham with the dehaze on this. I think, if anything, it's going to be like the lightest touch, like a 2. Vibrance can come up a lot. And we do want a lot of differentiation between blues and greens, since we got mountains and water. But then we cancel out how fake that looks by bringing saturation down. And saturation's probably going to come down like 20. We may even want to bring shadows up more. Like there. Already pretty dramatic change. And I almost want to go warmer on this just to make it feel a little more ethereal. And nope, I like that right where it was. That color balance is beautiful. Okay, curves, we're going to set our midpoint. We're going to bring, let's see, we don't want this too much. We kind of just want to lift our blacks. Bring our shadows back down to a nice point, but not like unnatural. And then maybe we want to bring, ooh, here's where we could get creative with it, but how fake is it going to end up looking? Don't want it to look like somebody just kind of like did a painting of the photo. We want it to actually look like a photo. Sometimes that can be a little challenging. Okay, I brought shadows down too much. Oops, that's not right. Come on, Aaron, grab this one. Maybe it's just midtones need to come down. No. We want it to soften the water, but not necessarily soften too much of anything else. That's the trick. At least that's what I'm going for here. And then we get into the really fun part. So this, it's really easy to go too far. I think I want to sit somewhere in that like 10 to 12 range. Green. I kind of like pushing it super far yellow because a lot of this is actually getting picked up as aqua or blue. So aqua we could turn more green. Ooh, and that actually does look a lot like something Alex would do. Right? Look at that. Pushing that really far left. Pushing green like maximum far left. This doesn't need to be quite that far, but pretty fucking far. Like probably about there. Yellow. I don't want it to blend with orange too much. because you can see that there's yellow and there's orange in these clouds, and I think I kind of want this to get pushed more green, and then orange can be more pushed towards yellow. And then the hazy orange that's happening up there really is reading more red. So we're going to leave that alone. So saturation then, yellow could come up. I think that's our splash of color that we're going for. Orange. Oh, maybe it's orange. Maybe it's orange that comes up and yellow comes down. So that yellow can be more like white light. I think that's the key here. Yeah, we make orange a little bit more vibrant. So then orange, we want, what's the perfect tone for orange? I think it's like right there. Yellow saturation. That's like his pants, some of the water, like that sort of stuff. That can come way down. Green. It's just a little too... Yeah, I'm going to come down with that. I think aqua is going to be the same. Aqua, we're going to come down. Although, okay, what's the difference between the aqua and the blue? So maybe it's blue down, aqua... No, it's not. I mean, blue is going to come down. But not like to the point I was thinking. So the spots I'm looking are like here, up on the mountain, in this water, and then really paying attention here, because you can see if you go like too far on either direction for any of these, you just start to get really obvious changes that are going on. So I think it's something right around in here. And I think masking is going to be extra key on this. Like blue, we want this up a little bit. Aqua, I think we also want this up a little bit. Green. Green can come up. Yellow, we might not even really want to mess with. Maybe just slightly. Orange, we don't want too far up. Red, purple, magenta don't really matter. How's this looking compared to the original? Yeah, so we're starting to get that Alex tone here and in the water, which is really what we're after. But it also feels like we're losing some of the magic in the clouds and in the sky. So I'm going to try to fix that. And I think some of that is just from the highlights being so far down. It might be like more like a 60. I'm glad we turned them down for editing purposes. It makes it easier to see stuff. We might even want whites to be up like here. We're going to play with masks. I keep forgetting that we're going to do that. Okay. And I think we may have... Aqua may have gotten pushed too far green. Don't want it here. Don't want it here. I think we want it like there. And is that a little bit more true? Yeah. That looks better. Okay. Shadows. Oh, something like this. But that doesn't look very wintry. This was a very wintry... But that's too blue. I really like some like orangey red in this. And maybe that's where we get away from Alex and we start pushing more into that Andrew category. But I think it just, yeah, no, that's nice. That a little bit of extra warmth really makes a big difference here. And we can bring the Lux on shadows up slightly as well. midtones. This is where we could cool things down. Put some more blue in the midtones and yeah. And then highlights, I think we want these to be kind of in that yellow-orange range. Yeah, and that gives us a little bit more sky pop. So highlights, we can then play with the lux a little bit. Same with the midtones, and I think we like the midtones popping a little bit more. Not that much, but even there is not bad. Ugh, color grading is just so good. It's so impactful. Yes, dear. They have not yet, and I was just about to take a break and do that. Just a minute. Yeah, she's freaking spoiled like that. Okay. I'm going to hit some masks. Let's try the sky mask. I usually don't like doing this. I like to just do more of a manual one, but maybe this is the key here. Contrast in the sky is huge. Really make it pop. Do I even have blacks? Yeah, I do. Okay. I still think I'm going to throw a graduated filter on that, but it's nice to have that a little more locked in now. Yeah, that just adds some really nice definition there. Let's do a new one. Let's do linear. And let's finalize the sky here. And this is going to add a little bit of a manual vignette to the image. Not quite that aggressive. Contrast we would want to be slightly higher. Highlights we still want high. But maybe it's really shadows that we're, well, no, it's not really shadows. It's just bringing whites up. The whites are out of control. We're peaking a little bit. That's okay. I don't think we need to be too concerned about having white in our image. Okay. And then we're going to bring a linear gradient up from the bottom. It's going to just hit that horizon line. We're going to make this darker because the sun is rising in front of us. We're going to make contrast a little more deep. I don't know if we want to make it that dark. Maybe let's do it like that. Highlights can still be up, but we want shadows lower. I think we want, yeah, no, that's too black. Let's go like there. And then balance it a little bit with whites. Okay, my dog is whining. I need to take 2 seconds to go feed them. I'll be right back. Apologies for that. My dog has been taking a dump in the kitchen, so I had to clean that up. Not sure if you can see that in my camera or not, but always a fun adventure. This is starting to look not quite correct to me. Yeah, it's a little off. Okay. That's looking nice. What's the difference? Yeah, a little more spectral. I forget where I was. Was I was masking. That's what it was. So we got our coming up. We got our sky. Could even do a couple of linear guys coming in like this. And just having that be a little bit darker. So we get some more of that gradient going. And let's do another one on this side. This one's not going to be as aggressive, but we want to touch it down as well. And then what we can do is potentially do kind of a radial on our kid here. Not actually my kid, just a kid that showed up on the dock that we were not upset about. And we could even actually make this bigger than just him. But we're going to start with just him. So I'm going to be careful with doing just raw exposure because then it makes it really obvious that you've done a gradient there. And I guess what we could do here, we could feather this considerably. So it's kind of on the kid mostly, but really we're kind of feathering that a little bit more. So I would do like maybe even like, I think we could get away with 0.2, but I think I'm just going to do 0.1. But then in this, we can do like higher highlights, slightly lifted shadows. Our whites could be more white. Our blacks could be even slightly lifted more. And that is just, it's not super apparent. But I think that this might make the image, play with that a little bit too. No, that's a little, well, no, because we're getting this light coming off of the sun. So I like that a little bit. And we could bring like saturation up or down. I think minus like 3 or so. And then that actually lets us do a little bit more with like whites shining off of him and stuff like that. And, you know, we could actually make this bigger. And have it be a little bit more dramatic, because then we're hitting more of the water, which is where we don't want the drama to be too obvious. But I wonder if that's a decent solution here. And we could even like, let's see, we could bring highlights down because that's what is highlights down, but bring whites up. Or is it the other way around? Ooh, highlights are a little softer. I like that. And maybe we're bringing the whites down, but we're bringing the highlights up. Honestly, no, we got to bring both. I think it's both. Highlights are not going up that high, but highlights could go up like 25. Whites could come up like 30, 25, 30. how does this look compared to what we were originally working with now? So yeah, we've really accentuated this, which I do like, and we've kind of got this drama building into it. We've got the Alex blue in there, which is what we were going for, a little bit more drama in the sky. And it's that like sort of blue-green, and then you've got your pop of color on top. And that's what we're looking for. So I think that's a pretty good one. He might not go as moody as I did here. And we could potentially change that up. My mountains got moodier when I did these, and we could fix that by maybe bringing like shadows up. Even though we went the other direction with the exposure, that's more to sort of blanket, give it more interest. And I could bring whites up on the corners and like blacks. Oh, blacks can just sit like right there. Ooh, I like that a lot. Okay. Now we need to do the same thing on the other side, but they're all going to be slightly different because they are different light that's going to be hitting here. So highlights can come up on this side, but then maybe we go blacks further down, and that's going to help. Yeah, something like that. I like that a lot. I do also kind of want like more saturation. And then if we go to this side, right, that's what where am I working right now? Maybe I want more saturation here too. Or is it less on that side? It might be less on that side. Okay. Let's look at that compared to the OG. And I think that's it. I think we've found it. That's the balance. That's the beauty. Okay. Happy with those. That can get moved down into our finished images folder now. And we've done quite a few now on stream. Feeling good about those. A couple of Alex Strohl inspired images. I'm going to send that one to Sean right after this stream. That'll be fun. All right. I am going to skedaddle. I want to make sure that I have a chance to get some other stuff done tonight. But yeah, that's sort of, I spent all day thinking about Alex and his work, and then going through my work, and I wasn't planning on going live today. But I am glad that we all kind of got a chance to nerd out on that a little bit today. I'm going to go live tomorrow as scheduled. I just got so excited. ADHD took over a little bit and wanted to do this one today. Maybe I'll make a YouTube video out of it. I don't know. It'll be cool. But thank you for anybody that did tune in. Appreciate it. It's helping me stay consistent. Hopefully it's helping other people see kind of how to see images a little bit differently and maybe replicate ones that you have thought about a lot or that have stuck with you in the same way that these have stuck with me. But yeah, I'm going to take off for the night, and I hope y'all have a wonderful evening, and I will catch you tomorrow.